The plains grow quiet. Wind that once combed open grass breaks upon leaves again. Shade returns to old riverbeds. Vines reclaim the margins of dust. After ages of drought and distance, the sky remembers rain, not as violence, but as patience. The earth inhales. In the shoulder of East Africa, the land becomes a mosaic, patches of woodland stitched to thickets, gallery forests strung along streams, pockets of open ground where light still reigns. It is neither the deep cathedral of the ancient jungle, nor the endless horizon of the savannah. It is a contested country where water argues with heat and life answers with compromise. Here, more than 4 million years before our time, a new outline appears between branch and soil. Not the runner of the plains, not the climber of the closed canopy, but something between, built to hold two truths at once. The bones we will later uncover will bear a name we did not know we needed. Ardipithecus, Ramidus, the root-ground ape. She is not the first to stand, and she will not be the last to climb. But in her posture, in the angles of pelvis and foot, evolution writes a new sentence. Balance can be a strategy. And strategies, repeated across generations, become lifelines. The world does not announce this change. It simply opens a path, and a small body steps onto it. Dawn arrives in green. Light filters through layers of leaf and liana until the day is more taste than sight. Wet earth. Sap, the clean bitterness where bark was newly torn. The canopy does not lift like a curtain. It breathes. Birds write thin lines of sound along the high branches. Insects stitch the distance shut. In this half-light, she moves, small by our measure, scarcely above a meter, but completely at scale with the world that made her. The hands are long, the fingers slightly curved. The big toe stands apart, grasping with the certainty of a second thumb. But below the ribcage, the architecture has shifted. The pelvis is short and broad, the ilia flared, a bowl built to cradle viscera, while the spine stacks more upright than any creature of the forest had truly managed before. The back does not promise a human gait. It promises a new possibility. On a trunk lacquered with last night's rain, she ascends with the grace of a memory millions of years in the making. The bark is a language her skin understands. Ridges for purchase, slicks for caution, bruised green where a branch gave way in a storm. Up here she feeds, fruit taken where sun and leaf conspire, soft pith where stems thicken with stored water, the occasional beetle without ceremony. Energy is not a luxury in this world. It is the only mathematics that adds up. When she drops to the ground, the forest asks a different question. The soil receives her with the quiet give of leaf and silt. Heel touches first, then the outer edge of the foot, then the spread of toes that still long for bark. Her stride is measured, cautious, and, most important, chosen. She does not walk as a rule. She walks as a tactic. The ground offers distances the canopy cannot, and stories written in prints and drag marks and the geometry of broken stems. It also offers teeth that wait where shade pools too long. Every step is a negotiation. Above her, black and white colobus scream at edges only they can see. Below the scrub, a leopard's coil refuses to be a shape until it is one. The forest is beautiful in the way seas are beautiful, indifferent, vast, alive with rules that do not include you. She survives not by strength or speed, but by attention. Where water hides under roots, where figs ripen first after a small rain, where the air goes thin and sweet a day before blossoms open. Attention is the oldest tool that leaves no artifact. This is not a return to the past. It is the invention of a middle way. Anatomy is a reply to the questions the land keeps asking. In Ardipithecus Ramidus, the replies are precise. Look first to the pelvis. The ilia have rotated and widened, shortening the distance between the spine and hip joint, bringing the trunk closer to the legs. It is not a runner's engine. It is a stabilizer, a platform that permits upright weight-bearing long enough to matter, long enough to reach, to carry, to cross open ground where the canopy breaks. the lower back takes on the earliest hint of a curve that will one day define us. Balance has entered the skeleton as a permanent guest. Now, the foot. The big toe is still abducted, grasping, opposed to the line of the other toes. This is a climber's insistence, written in bone. But the midfoot is stiffer than in forest apes, the arch beginning the long argument with gravity that will become our spring. She is not built to march. She is built to choose, to preserve tree life without surrendering the ground entirely. The ankle yields and holds at times that suggest practice rather than accident. Her hands remember branches, and they are allowed to. The palm bones read like blueprints for a life spent around bark and vine. Fingers curve to meet the diameters of wood. And yet, when she descends, those same hands do a different kind of work, brushing leaf litter aside to test for hidden water, steadying a body across slick clay, reaching for fruit that has fallen beyond the reach of a safe perch. The hand is not yet a maker. It is a reconciler. The face is neither fully ape nor fully human. The canine is reduced from the sabers of earlier cousins. Displays of dominance now take other forms, less blade than presence. The jaw is not the fortress that later robust cousins will raise. It is a generalist's compromise, enamel stout enough to weather fiber and grit, not so massive that the skull must be redesigned to haul it. Inside the skull, the brain is small, closer to a chimpanzee's than to ours, but size is an easy story that misleads. What matters today is not volume, but vantage. Eyes lifted by posture, hands freed in moments when four limbs are not required. A horizon made visible where, for ages, only foliage stood. Perspective, not intellect, is the wedge evolution drives here, and perspective is what the land pays attention to. None of this announces destiny. It announces capacity, and capacity, repeated across days and seasons, becomes culture before tools ever do. The country of Ardipithecus is drawn by water and corrected by heat. Streams thread the landscape, some year-round, some seasonal and secret, feeding gallery forests that hold a cooler grammar. After a small rain, the understory loosens its grip. Perfumes of blossom and rot rise together and make the day feel enormous. After a dry month, dust finds its way into everything that breathes and names what will survive. Roots, pith, the fruits that keep their promises longer than leaves do. She lives where this map shifts, but does not collapse. On river margins, safe enough to drink from. In tree stands that are tall enough to rest in, but not so tall that they become invitations to things that climb better than you do. She knows the shallow entries to water, honest banks where mud slopes instead of breaking. She knows the reach of reed beds, where crocodiles write their presence in ripples too regular to be wind. She knows that the first fig to ripen after rain is not the one in the open, but the one that gets half a day less sun. Knowledge like this has no words and no owner. It is distributed through bodies by survival. Movement is measured in short traverses that thread these reliables. From a nest tree built at dusk to a feeding cluster at mid-morning. From a seep line under a bank to a safer grove by noon. From a shaded corridor back toward the elevated ground where night disciplines the brave. She is not a migrant. She is a weaver, tying places to each other with the string of her own steps. On the ground, prints tell stories that the canopy cannot. Hoof marks script the comings and goings of small antelope. Scuffed patches where warthogs knelt to root become cautions or invitations depending on the wind. Drag lines near the river mean reptile. A blurred smear of feathers means a hunt ended, not always with a kill. Her feet place themselves in ways that preserve options. Roots to a climb, roots to a bend, roots to stillness. Stillness itself is a tactic, vanishing into the immobility the forest most often trusts. Food here is rarely in one place long enough to become routine. Fruit ripens, falls, and disappears by noon to mouths that do not waste. Tender growth after rain becomes fiber after a week, and then memory. Underground storage keeps a steadier counsel, but requires patience and effort. Her jaw can only pay so many hours a day. Insects are protein without drama when found. Eggs are windfalls when nests are clumsy. Lizards are gains that carry risks, and she takes those risks only when the arithmetic yields a margin. Predators travel the same map in inverse. Leopards own the seams of light and shadow. Pythons are corridors disguised as stillness. Crowned eagles hunt a geometry most creatures cannot see. She survives by reading these as fluently as she reads stems and streams. When the forest says now, she climbs without flourish. When it says wait, she waits without regret. The cost of error is written in other bones. In the evening, when air loses its heat and the world returns to edges, she builds a nest that is not a home, but a position. Interlaced branches that hold sleep above trouble and below lightning's preference. Leaves lie as a mattress and a warning. Each movement under her is a message her skin understands. Night is not silent here. It is a different vocabulary. Frogs inherit the air. Owls draw cursive through the dark with sound. Cats patrol, sometimes seen, more often not. She sleeps in pieces large enough to mend muscle and small enough to let fear do its work. In this mosaic of water and shade, she does not conquer. She belongs, not as an owner, but as a participant whose body has been negotiated over millions of years by climate, plant, predator, and chance. Belonging is not safety, it is fit. And fit is what endures when weather becomes a temperament and landscapes choose, again, what to keep. To watch her move is to watch a negotiation between epochs. Each climb is a conversation with the past, each step on the forest floor, a rehearsal for what will one day be the human stride. No decision conscious, yet none accidental. Each motion adds to the archive of what can be done, and the archive, in time, writes a new design. Her gait is neither efficient nor elegant, but it is possible, and in evolution, possibility is the only currency that matters. Life is rarely solitary in the forest. The ones who survive longest are those who stay close enough to see, far enough not to compete. Ardipithecus lives in loose groups, perhaps a dozen, sometimes less, shifting with season and need. There are no territories, only tolerances, regions large enough to forage without war, but small enough that cries for help are still heard. They communicate not through words, but through rhythm. Soft chirrups, alarm bursts, rustles repeated 3 times, gestures of the hand that mirror branches moving in the wind. Silence, too, is language, the kind every predator understands. Mothers carry infants close, their bodies an ecosystem of warmth, protection, and instruction. The infants cling with a grip older than language, fingers learning texture before meaning. When the mother climbs, the young cling beneath her, pressed between belly and limb, safe but exposed to the scent and sound of everything that might one day hunt them. They learn by watching. They survive by imitation. The forest teaches before thought is born. Males range wider, seeking fruit or opportunity. Conflict is brief. Strength seldom solves scarcity. The forest punishes noise and pride, gifts that later hominins will forget, to their peril. In this world, calmness is dominant. Observation is victory. And though no one here knows of the future, every glance, every call, every shared search for water lays the foundation for what will one day be called society. Predators are the architects of intelligence. They sculpt vigilance, cooperation, and the beginnings of foresight. When the forest dims and sound folds inward, Ardipithecus listens. The leopard's silence weighs it, the sudden hush of birds, a sentence half finished. In those gaps, decisions are made: climb, freeze, scatter, or simply vanish into stillness. Her world is filled with rehearsals for death. Each success, each escape, writes new reflexes into the muscles of the next generation. Even the young understand geometry. A vertical trunk buys seconds. A shallow stream buys sound. Open ground is risk measured in heartbeats. And when the air changes flavor, when it turns metallic and wrong, nothing moves until something else dies. This constant awareness is exhausting, but it sharpens her world. Fear is not just an alarm. It is perception expanded to survive. The predators themselves are ancient legends of the land. Leopards in the canopy, crowned eagles above, pythons coiled in roots, saber-toothed cats testing the margins of the forest's return. She meets them not with weapons, not with fire, but with instinct and timing. Every successful avoidance, every silent escape, is evolution applauding its own experiment. There are years the forest forgets to rain. Rivers shrink to strings of mud. The green canopy thins. The smell of leaf rot gives way to dust. And through this parched half-world, Ardipithecus moves. Slower, thinner, hungrier. Her life is tied to the forest, yet the forest is dying around her. Roots crack, fruit withers, and water grows shy. The land tests her balance again, between adaptation and extinction. She reaches for tubers now, digging with fingers hardened by work. She breaks open rotten logs for insects and larvae. The hands, once made to climb, are learning the first lessons of utility. They are not yet inventors' hands, but they are problem solvers. They turn over stones, pry bark, strip reeds, small rehearsals for a future she will never see. And when the rain does come, it comes all at once. Thunder rolls down the valleys, the sky opens its throat and pours. The dry streams swell in hours, drowning burrows, sweeping nests. The forest breathes again. Too fast, too strong, as if to make up for lost time. In this chaos, she climbs and waits, clinging to bark as the earth below boils with brown water. When it passes, she descends into a world scrubbed raw, the scent of lightning still fresh in the air. The next morning, she eats. New leaves, soft shoots, sweet sap rising in stems. Every pulse of the forest writes its rhythm into her muscles. Survival here is not endurance. It is understanding the pattern and never stepping out of time. Every age demands something new from the body. The forests thin again, but not entirely. Grasslands push forward, probing into shade. Rivers alter course, feeding the plains instead of the woods. Once more, the planet tilts its balance, and life must answer. For Ardipithecus, the answer is quiet but profound. Her kind learns to walk longer between stands of trees. They spend more time on the ground, moving from grove to grove, following the rhythm of water and fruit. Their steps are short, deliberate, but increasingly confident. They cross open spaces where the air tastes of sun, not canopy. And though fear still grips them, they do not turn back. In the dry heat of the day, they pause under scattered trees, a species learning distance. The body continues its slow rehearsal. Ankles stiffen, hips align, legs lengthen by fractions that will echo through millennia. They are still climbers, but less bound to the sky. Each stride etches possibility into the ground, a new kind of claim on the earth. The brain, too, shifts in subtle ways. Its wiring favors memory, not invention, but recognition. They recall where water stayed last season, which tree fruited longest, and which path hides the cat's scent. In these sparks of awareness, cognition begins to glimmer. It is not thought, not yet. It is the shadow of it, a widening of perception. Adaptation is not progress. It is persistence written elegantly, and every generation of Ardipithecus carves that script deeper into time. When dusk falls, the forest cools into ritual. Each member of the group builds a sleeping nest, high in the safety of mid-branches. They weave twigs and leaves with a precision that seems instinct, not art, a shape handed down through unbroken memory. The nests are never reused. To sleep again where one slept before is to invite what hunts. Every night is new architecture, every morning new ruin. Females carry infants pressed close to the heart. They nurse while moving, their gait adjusting to the new weight. The young cling not just for warmth, but for education, learning balance through the motion of their mothers. In these intimate exchanges, love has not yet found a word, but it exists as chemical truth, oxytocin, heartbeat, contact. It will one day evolve into the bonds that build tribes, families, and civilizations. But here, it is simply survival made tender. During the wet season, males wander further, their strength tested by scarcity's brief retreat. Fights are rare. There is nothing here worth owning for long. Dominance, when shown, is more ceremony than cruelty. A flash of teeth, a raised body, a warning that stops before it wounds. In this way, they conserve both energy and community, the first lessons of peace. The world beyond the forest, however, is changing faster than any instinct can follow. And evolution, though patient, never waits forever. Time collapses. 1,000,000 years pass as silently as a breath. The forests of Ethiopia withdraw, then return, then die again. Rivers carve new beds and bury old worlds in silt. And beneath that silt, a skeleton sleeps. Her bones will rest for 4.4 million years. When they finally emerge, the world will be unrecognizable. Machines in the sky, men walking upright, carrying fire and memory, naming the stars. But her bones will still speak clearly. The pelvis will whisper, "I could stand." The foot will murmur, "I still held the trees." The hands will confess, "I learned to choose." The skull, delicate yet resolute, will remind us that humanity was once small, cautious, and half hidden in green. The scientists who find her in the Awash Valley will name her Ardi, after the land that cradled her. Ardipithecus Ramidus, the root of the ground. She will not roar her importance. She will hum it through data. Her discovery will rewrite the story of our beginning, that we did not descend from savannah hunters, but from forest survivors. That our first steps toward humanity were taken not in conquest, but in adaptation. That our lineage began not with aggression, but with balance. But the forest cannot last. Across millennia, Africa dries once more. The great green belt of Ardipithecus retreats to ribbons along rivers, to patches of refuge in mountain valleys. What remains becomes fragile, fractured, unsustainable. And when the last generation of her kind looks out from the dying trees, they see the open plains stretching to the horizon. The forest child stands at the edge of two worlds. Behind her, shadow, safety, memory. Before her, heat, distance, promise. She steps forward because there is nowhere else to go. That step will echo for millions of years. It will call forth new shapes of bone and new kinds of courage. It will become the foundation for the first true walkers of the earth, Australopithecus afarensis, those who will leave footprints in ash that the world will one day call Lucy's. The forest fades, but its memory remains inside her, in the curve of our fingers, in the twist of our spine, in the lingering ache that draws us toward trees even now. Every cell of us remembers her rhythm. We are the children of her balance. 4 million years separate her breath from ours, but her pulse never truly stopped. When we stand beneath trees, we inherit her stance. When we reach for fruit, we repeat her gesture. When we walk, we continue the motion she made possible. Ardipithecus Ramidus did not build, did not hunt, did not imagine. But she bridged a gap no storm or drought could close, between the sky that raised us and the earth that would one day carry us. Her life was brief, her world small. But in the architecture of her bones, evolution rehearsed humanity. And in that rehearsal, it found its direction.